Let's begin the hour with the latest Olympic highlights for Team USA. Only 3 days of competition remain before the Paris Games make their curtain call at Sunday's closing ceremony. Track star Noah Lyles announced that his Olympics, well, they're already over after taking bronze yesterday in the 200-meter race. He ran despite testing positive for COVID on Tuesday. Now, after the race, he appeared to struggle to catch his breath and was taken off the track in a wheelchair, later revealing that he had tested positive for COVID 2.5 days earlier. His own teammates didn't even know he was sick. That includes Kenny Bednarek, who won silver in that same race. That news did not slow the rest of the U.S. track team. Get this, they brought home 8 new medals, including 3 golds, helping Team USA keep its lead in the medal count. Here's what Grant Holloway told NBC News after winning his first gold in the 110-meter hurdles.
This is something that's been on my mind for the last 3 years. I have the World Championships, I have the indoors, I have the Diamond Leagues. This is the main one that was, that was missing. I remember sitting in my living room 2012 watching Aries Merritt win an Olympic gold medal in London. And, hopefully I can be that inspiration for somebody who's watching in their living room.
So the U.S. now has 103 medals heading into the final weekend of events. We're going to bring you more highlights coming up later this hour. Back in the U.S., Debby is the storm that just won't quit. Now downgraded to a post-tropical cyclone, Debby made its first landfall in Florida on Monday as a Category 1 hurricane. Now, tens of millions of Americans are under flood watches more than 24 hours after Debby's second landfall in South Carolina. The slow-motion storm continues to soak states up the East Coast, so far blamed for the deaths of at least 7 people. The biggest threat today is in North Carolina, Virginia, and Maryland. Those places could see more excessive rain with the possibility of isolated tornadoes. NBC News correspondent George Solis is in Pennsylvania, which will also feel Debby's impact today.
Joe, good morning. Powerful, slow-moving, and relentless. Debby, now a tropical depression, still expected to pack quite a wallop as it moves northeast and into New England. The big story today, of course, the major flooding, the catastrophic flooding this storm has left behind. It has spawned multiple tornadoes and has claimed at least 7 lives. Here in the Harrisburg area, we're seeing a little bit of a lull, but make no mistake, those bands are on their way, and we're expecting to see a lot of that same flooding that has overwhelmed drainage systems, causing some of that flash flooding across the south. Here behind me, the mighty Susquehanna officials here, while there are flood watches in effect, don't expect this river to flood. That is about the only silver lining in all of this. Rescues have also happened during Tropical Storm Debby. Again, now a tropical depression. It is going to impact travel today. Residents urged to stay at home and, of course, mind the weather alerts as they come in. Again, we're also looking out for those tornadoes. There have been multiple that have been spawned as a result of this system. The travel nightmare is not expected to end as we enter the weekend. This morning, already we're seeing some of those travel headaches starting to unfold, delays and cancellations into the triple digits, and those numbers only expected to go up again as this system begins to move its way again into the Northeast and New England. We'll, of course, stay on top of the weather here and bring you any updates as they become available. Joe?
All right, George, thank you so much. Debby, just one of several extreme weather stories making headlines this morning. A new update from NOAA's Climate Prediction Center warns existing conditions could lead to this being one of the busiest hurricane seasons on record. Angie Lassman's here with the latest. Angie, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Joe. You got that right. We've still got a lot going on, and we've got a long way to go with hurricane season. We do have some changes to Debby this morning with the latest update, now post-tropical cyclone Debby. What does that mean? It means that it basically just doesn't have enough of those tropical cyclone characteristics to call it a tropical depression, and so on and so forth. Either way, though, the impacts haven't changed from what we've been highlighting for days and days. We still have that rain working its way to the north. We still have the potential for some tornadoes to develop today. But here's where we're currently standing. Winds are at 30 miles per hour. Take note of where the tornado watch is right now. This has been extended to 2 o'clock this afternoon. It does include major cities of Philadelphia and Washington, D.C. It is just west of New York City, but it encompasses a whole lot of folks, and this is going to go through your morning hours and into the afternoon hours. Pretty rare to see this kind of at this time of the morning across this region. We're still going to watch for the ingredients, though, to be there into the afternoon hours as well. And we, on top of that, have all of that rain that just has been so problematic, especially down through parts of the Carolinas, where we see plenty of flood alerts right now. The flash flood warnings in effect for Savannah, Charleston still. We've got Raleigh as well. We're going to watch for folks into portions of the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast likely to see some flooding concerns as the morning continues on. Here's the area we're watching for later today to see some of those tornadoes developing. Philadelphia, New York City, Harrisburg, Baltimore, all of those locations included in this. And again, this is going to go through the afternoon hours and into the evening hours. Now to the good news. The good news is we're going to start to wrap this system up here as we get into the next 36 hours. We still have another day or so, still going to last into early tomorrow morning. And those tropical rains are going to be mainly draped across the mid-Atlantic and New England today. So the flash flooding, the tornadoes, those are the two things we'll watch for. But look what happens by the time we get into tomorrow, Joe. We'll see kind of that rain working through northern New England into the morning hours. But by later into the afternoon hours, we're mostly done with the rain. Now, that doesn't mean that we'll see all of the flooding start to relieve itself. Instead, we'll probably still see rivers, streams remaining swollen, and that'll be something that'll take a little time. But we'll finally be done talking about Debby.
I mean, every state, it feels like, is going to get to have a little introduction to Debby.
Yes, up and down the East Coast. You got that right.
Okay, Angie, thank you so much. Now to the debate over debates in the race for the White House. We now know that former President Trump and Vice President Harris will have at least one debate against each other. Mr. Trump discussed the debate and the potential for others in a wide-ranging press conference yesterday at Mar-a-Lago. It was his first time addressing reporters since Vice President Harris named Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as her running mate. NBC's Garrett Hake has the story.
At least one debate showdown now set between former President Trump and Vice President Harris for September 10th, with Trump announcing in a news conference he's also accepted debate invitations from 2 more networks and challenged Harris to commit as well.
We'd like to do 3 debates. We think we should do 3 debates.
Harris telling NBC's Shaquille Brewster she is committed to just one.
Will you be participating in all 3?
I've always been on record. I am looking forward to debating Donald Trump, and we have a date of September 10th. I hear he is finally committed to it. I'm looking forward.
What about the other 2?
Let's make sure we get this.
Trump also criticizing the vice president for not holding any news conferences or sit-down interviews in the 18 days since President Biden stepped aside.
She should be doing interviews. She doesn't want to do interviews. And the reason she doesn't is, number one, her policies are so bad.
A Harris aide told NBC News Harris and running mate Tim Walz would like to do a joint interview, quote, in a few weeks. While Trump was also asked about abortion rights, repeating his false claim most Americans wanted Roe v. Wade overturned, when polls show the opposite.
I think the abortion issue has been taken down many notches. I don't think it's a big factor anymore, really. We brought it back to the states. Everybody wanted it in the states.
Harris and Walz in Michigan meeting union voters, part of a 5-day battleground barnstorm.
You know, when you know what you stand for, you know what to fight for.
A new CNBC poll shows Trump leading Harris nationally by 2 points, within the margin of error, the same slim lead he had over President Biden. But Democratic enthusiasm has spiked. 81% of Democrats now satisfied with Harris as their nominee, compared to 33% who were satisfied with Biden.
To what do you attribute her rising in the polls, this becoming a more competitive race since she's taken over for Biden?
She's a woman. She represents certain groups of people. But I will say this, when people find out about her, I think she'll be much less.
Trump campaign advisors tell me they're still confident he will win this election and that Harris's surge has been a sugar high, fueled entirely by Democratic voters who had soured on Joe Biden coming home. They believe Harris's record will prevent her from winning over the independents that she needs to win this election.
All right, Garrett, thank you so much. Now, soon after Vice President Harris named Governor Walz to be her running mate, the Trump campaign began targeting Walz's time in the military as a point of attack. Well, this morning, we're taking a closer look at the facts. First, some background. Walz served 24 years in the Minnesota National Guard before serving in Congress. The Trump campaign has raised questions about Walz's time in service, specifically his exit from the military, something echoed this week by Trump's running mate, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, who's also a military veteran.
When Tim Walz was asked by his country to go to Iraq, you know what he did? He dropped out of the Army and allowed his unit to go without him, a fact that he's been criticized for aggressively by a lot of the people that he served with. I think it's shameful to prepare your unit to go to Iraq, to make a promise that you're going to follow through, and then to drop out right before you actually have to go. I also think it's dishonest. What bothers me about Tim Walz is the stolen valor garbage. Do not pretend to be something that you're not.
So let's take a further look at Governor Walz's military record and the accusation he abandoned his National Guard unit before they deployed for Iraq. He joined the Minnesota National Guard in 1981, serving those 24 years. Then in January 2005, he filed paperwork to run for public office. 2 months later, in March, the first reports emerged that the Minnesota National Guard would deploy. Back then, in March of 2005, the Walz congressional campaign put out a statement saying he didn't know yet at the time whether his artillery unit would be part of the deployment. Walz officially retired from the National Guard in May of 2005, and 2 months later, his now former battalion was alerted to deploy to Iraq, which occurred in March 2006. And that is the timeline based on all of our reporting. Another issue, Senator Vance argued that Governor Walz misrepresented his service by saying he used weapons in war. This is in response to a video that was recently posted by the Harris-Walz campaign discussing gun reform.
I spent 25 years in the Army, and I hunt. And I gave the money back, and I'll tell you what I have been doing. I've been voting for common sense legislation that protects the Second Amendment, but we can do background checks. We can do CDC research. We can make sure we don't have reciprocal carry among states, and we can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only place where those weapons are at.
He said we shouldn't allow weapons that I used in war to be on America's streets. Well, I wonder, Tim Walz, when were you ever in war? When was this? What was this weapon that you carried into war, given that you abandoned your unit right before they went to Iraq, and he has not spent a day in a combat zone?
Okay, so that's what we're focused on here, is that he said weapons of war that I carried in war. Walz has acknowledged in past interviews that he never actually saw combat, though he did specialize in heavy artillery and was deployed to support the operation in Afghanistan, but was stationed in Italy. Vance, there you saw, accusing Walz of lying about this military service. In response, the Harris-Walz campaign put out a statement saying, quote, in his 24 years of service, the governor carried, fired, and trained others to use weapons of war innumerable times. Governor Walz would never insult or undermine any American service to this country. In fact, he thanks Senator Vance for putting his life on the line for our country. It's the American way. As the race for the White House heats up, the country is marking an important political anniversary. 50 years ago today, former President Richard Nixon became the first president to resign from office. He lost the support of his party during a lengthy investigation into his role into the break-in of the Democratic National Committee headquarters at the Watergate Hotel. Rather than face an impeachment trial in the Senate that he was told he was sure to lose, he resigned. Joining us now to talk both about the legacy of Nixon's resignation and to help us put it into context with today's political moment is NBC News presidential historian Michael Beschloss. Michael, always good to have you with us.
Oh, same. Thank you, Joe.
So let's start with the current election. The news we saw yesterday, former President Trump agreeing to this face-to-face with Vice President Harris at the previously arranged debate taking place on ABC September 10th. Given all that's gone on this summer, how do you measure the importance of this debate, the only one scheduled so far? I mean, is there a historical analogy?
Yeah, I think a great one is exactly what you're talking about, which is Richard Nixon in 1960 debated John Kennedy 4 times, and oddly enough, made it possible for Kennedy to be president. Before those debates, Kennedy was an obscure senator. People saw him going toe-to-toe with Nixon 4 times, held his own. Kennedy later said, without those debates, I never would have been president.
Let's talk about Nixon in the 50th anniversary of his resignation. The Watergate break-in was in June 1972. He wouldn't resign for more than 2 years after that, after the drip, drip, drip of revelations. Take us back to that moment for the country, how it played out, and just what it meant.
Well, Nixon had, just as you say, was embroiled in the Watergate scandal, and it really rested on these tapes he made of his private conversations. Went to the Supreme Court. Nixon thought, and you can imagine how this relates to today, Nixon thought that he had the Supreme Court basically in his pocket because he had appointed 4 out of 9 of its members. To his great surprise, the Supreme Court, including 3 Nixon appointees, 1 recused, said you have to give up your tapes. Once the tapes were given up, it showed Americans that indeed Nixon was shoulder deep in the Watergate scandal. And just as you say, if he had not resigned, he might have been prosecuted, probably would have been, might well have gone to prison. All of that is so different today.
Absolutely. It is a totally different environment today. Help people understand Nixon as a politician a little bit. So if he were in politics today, where would he fit along the ideological spectrum? I mean, setting aside Watergate and its abuses, what did he stand for?
By current Republican standards, Nixon would be probably a leftist. He did things for the environment. He did other liberal programs. He did deficit spending. He was a moderate. He wasn't particularly ideological. So let's say if Nixon, with his ideology, had run in a congressional primary during the era of Donald Trump, I guarantee you Nixon would be quickly defeated.
Michael Beschloss, always good to have you with us. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe, always.
New details are emerging about the assassination attempt on former President Trump. Newly released body cam video from a local police department shows the tense moments when police discovered the shooter before he opened fire. NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez reports.
The Secret Service said it was reviewing that body cam footage and updating its policies to ensure a tragedy like this never happens again.
Yo, Jess, you got me up once, bro.
Newly released body camera video is revealing more of the confusion and frustration right before and after former President Donald Trump was shot.
I told them they need to post the guys over here. I told them that the Secret Service. I told them that Tuesday.
The footage, some of which is no audio, is from the Butler Township Police Department in Pennsylvania. It shows 2 officers trying to intercept the gunman on a roof seconds before he tried to assassinate the former president last month. One officer lifts the other to the roof. He sees the gunman off camera and falls back to the ground. That officer then runs to his car to grab a weapon.
It's close, bro. Dude, he turned around on me.
As backup arrives, there's confusion about where the gunman is.
This building. He was on top of this building. The left one.
By the time that officer returns to the roof, a sniper had already shot and killed the would-be assassin. The officer questions the apparent lack of communication.
That's what I was calling out, bro. On top of the roof. Are we on the same frequency?
About 10 minutes after the shooting, another local officer is furious with the Secret Service.
I told them they need to post the guys over here. No, we're inside. In the building. I talked to the Secret Service guys. They're like, yeah, no problem. We're going to post guys over here.
Last week, the agency's acting director testified before Congress that he could not defend why that roof was not better secured. Back to you.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.